going on, everybody? Welcome to the RBS Cinema Podcast.
I know Kung Fu.
Show me.
This is Sparta! I'm thinking I'm back.
Why so serious?
Avengers!
Assemble. I'm Batman.
You better lawyer up, asshole. Because I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for everything.
I'll be back.
You shall not pass!
RBS.
Lovely.
Welcome to RBS Cinema, you guys. I'm your host, Devin. With me is, of course, returning guest / co-star Jack.
Hello, everybody.
And unfortunately, I have some bad news. Sam can no longer be co-host of the podcast because of personal reasons. He's just not able to do this anymore. Hopefully we can get him back on occasionally or in certain episodes, but as of right now, he's just not able to do this, which is very unfortunate because we both love Sam. We love spending time with him. We love talking about movies with him and stuff, especially the ones that he's very passionate about, being like John Wick, for instance, for starters. But other than that, on a lighter note, this week's episode, we decided to talk about Hundreds of Beavers. More specifically, Jack wanted to talk about Hundreds of Beavers. So,
Should I explain a little bit of what Hundreds of Beavers is for those of you who don't know?
Well, I have the synopsis here of basically like really dumbing it down of what it is, but if you want to, you can go ahead.
Well, just to summarize this, so for context, I came up to Devin probably a couple days ago earlier this week, and I was just because we had plans originally to do, I suggested originally The Interview, you know, the Kim Jong-un,
James Franco, Seth Rogen
comedy movie that was almost banned 10 years ago. I was like, it seems funny, but then out of nowhere, out of the blue, last Monday, a friend of mine showed me this movie, Hundreds of Beavers, which, by the way, is free on YouTube right now to watch.
Even if you don't have premium, it's still free to watch, but you just have to watch ads. That's the only thing.
Yeah, there's ad breaks into it, but it is free to watch if you're interested in it. Mm-hmm. And I was I was very impressed by this film. It's a film that's come out in 2024, and it essentially is a sort of a more modern take on classic Looney Tunes style cartoons and bits and stuff like that, because this movie is in black and white first and foremost.
It's little to no talking at all,
and it's mostly a silent film,
grunts and stuff.
Yes, it's there's almost no dialogue in this film except for a couple parts in the beginning, and I was kind of put off by that at first. Is okay, how are they going to keep this entertaining? Because this movie is about an hour and a half runtime, so
something like that. I think it was an hour and a half,
hour 24 minutes. So, but as the movie went on, it really it's slowly become a favorite of mine, and I thought I would do a service to get it out there to as many people who don't know what this movie is, because again, like I said, it came out really recently, but it's already won some film awards. Yeah. Right? So
yeah, I saw that.
So I can't wait to talk about this because Devin had not seen it, and it's always a pleasure.
And it's funny too because Wyatt even shared the trailer for it some time ago on the Discord.
Really?
So
I didn't know
that I thought was hilarious, and I never saw the trailer. And I was just okay, because I just kept forgetting about it, honestly. But I was just oh, okay. But then after watching this, I was just okay, no, yeah, this definitely makes sense. So
I was gonna say, it's always a pleasure to know that I've seen a movie before Devin has.
Yes, because I am basically the film fanatic of the podcast. That's all I ever do is watch movies. I mean, I used to work at 2 different movie theaters. I used to work at one in Arizona, and then I moved back up here, and then I worked at AMC Theaters. But it took me maybe about a year to get that job. because I was working at Kohl's at the time. And then because like as soon as I moved back home, I was like, okay, I want to work at the movie theater again because like I had a really good experience and like, you know, that seems fun to me. And then I applied and then I didn't get the job. And then I was like, okay, well now what the hell am I going to do? And then I got the job over at Kohl's. And then eventually I decided to put my hand into the ring again for AMC Theaters. And I got the job over there.
Nice.
So, and then I was there for about maybe 2.5, 3 years before I left. So it's a pretty good experience. But otherwise, like, no, it's definitely going off into a side tangent about the movie theater business. But like, definitely for that, it was a good experience if, you know, it's your first job or if you're just in between jobs and stuff. Because, like, if you're not willing to actually pretty much, like, put in effort, because I became supervisor at a very short time. I think after a year and a half, I became supervisor. So, but, like, if you're not willing to put in the work to actually step up the ladder for the theater business, then like, okay, then just stay at base level.
Yeah.
Because like there's film crew, which is just basically you got 3 different jobs. You got box office, concessions, and usher. And of course, like by this point, everybody should know those jobs titles of what they do. But definitely usher is like, okay, you deal with all the problems that are in the theater specific. So it's like you take out the trash, you clean up the theater and stuff like that after people leave and everything. So there's that.
Shout out to ushers in the year of our Lord 2025 right now. They're
with
going through
Minecraft.
They're going through it right now.
Like I've never had that bad of an experience like Minecraft, where I've seen TikToks of people throwing popcorn because of Jack Black saying chicken jockey.
Oh my god,
and
chicken
then the
jockey.
Huge theater erupts, throws stuff around and everything. And
because
like,
kids
I'll
are
cut to a
weird
clip of that
these
too,
days,
so.
and dumb internet trends like this just sort of pop up.
Yeah.
And from time to time, it's just like I just feel bad, you know.
Oh yeah. Because like for me, the worst experience that I had was Star Wars every year around Christmas. And there was one year that I was sick and it was my birthday. So I worked on my birthday because of course I was born on Christmas. And so I was working when I was sick. For 1. 2 was also my birthday. And then 3, we were behind on movies because it was like every like 10 or 15 minutes there was a Star Wars movie playing. So we had like 10 or 15 minutes in between each movie after they got done to go in and clean. And on top of that, we were already behind on theaters. So by the time that the trailers were starting, we were just getting in and cleaning up some of the theaters. So it was only me and one other associate. And we got on the radio with our manager and we were like, hey, like we need help cleaning these theaters. She could have done this herself. God rest her soul. Because unfortunately she passed away not too long ago. So, but she got on the radio and she was like, all right, like I'll have somebody come over. And then we walked past the lobby area. There's nobody in the lobby. Like there's nobody at the concession stand, like nothing. Like no patrons, I should say.
Yeah.
So like there's no customers. And it's like her and the box office employee are both just standing there talking. And we're all like, what the hell? And she, like my coworker, she got on the radio and goes like, hey, like, are we gonna be able to get help? She goes like, yeah, like I'll send someone over. And then I don't remember. I don't think we ever got help though.
Oh,
maybe
man.
we did, but it was like way later. And it's just like, what the hell? So, because I mean, like, I understand, okay, conversing and stuff, that's one thing. But when we're behind on theaters and we're like, hey, we really need help cleaning these theaters, so that way we can all split off and clean as much as we can, as quickly as we can. But no. So, but anyhow, enough of talk about freaking theaters. But yeah, shout out to the ushers and people in the movie theater business. I'd probably say extension from you. Our hearts go out to you guys.
Yes,
because
it goes without saying, of
right?
course.
Because I've been through it. I've lived that life before. and it's just terrible. It's not that great of a time.
All this to say, though, that it's the reason why Devin has so much experience watching films. Is because so it's always interesting to me when I get to catch him off guard. Where it's like, "Hey, have you seen this film?" And he's like, "No."
Yeah, I've never even heard of this.
Well, to be
What the
fair,
hell
there's
is
still a lot of films that I haven't seen either. So I'm not. I like to talk. So if I watch something, then I'll give my opinion on it and stuff like that. But but he's the film expert. Or rather, he's the
film fanatic.
Film fanatic.
Because I'm not the expert on movies because it's all like I don't sit here and go like, oh yeah, like did you know about in this scene like for 2001: Space Odyssey
like
that this happened?
And stuff like that.
Right. Like I don't know like the in-depth trivia or like the behind the scenes stuff because like I used to watch behind the scenes stuff, but that's only because that for me, I wasn't as busy as I am now as an adult. It's all like, oh, cool. Like, I want to see what the behind the scenes stuff is.
And it feels like it's
around that time, it was like, I was very, very in depth, like, into learning about movies and stuff like that. So, like, I remember when I went to the library and I rented all of or rather checked out a lot of the Saw movies, I would go through the special features and stuff. And there was like, maybe it was the fourth one that was the rack. No, I think that's the third one. I think the third one has the rack. It's either the third or the fourth one. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen them. But like, they were talking about like, okay, like we had to come up with new traps for people to be in and stuff like that. And so like they talked about all that bunch of stuff and how the intricacy of how it worked and all that bunch of stuff. So like that sort of stuff always kept me interested, but I don't know. But because I don't really buy a lot of movies on physical anymore, I can still have the special features on digital movies. But other than that, it's all like, okay, I'm done with this movie. I'm gonna move on. Yeah. So, but I clearly derailed you. So.
I could go off on a tangent about like special effects and stuff like that. We need to talk about this film.
Yes, we need to talk about Hundreds of Beavers.
Yes.
So, just going down the stuff real quick. Talk about who directed it, starred in it, all that boring stuff, and then we will talk about more in depth about the movie. So, bare bones of what the movie is about is, in this 19th century supernatural winter epic, a drunken Applejack salesman must go from zero to hero to become North America's greatest fur trapper by defeating hundreds of beavers. You don't say.
That's where it comes from. Hundreds of beavers. That's again. That is a summing it up mildly.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like that. That's all that basically it is on IMDb. And then we got director Mike Cheslick, and then he also wrote it, as well as co-writer Ryland Brixton Cole Tews, who also starred in it as Gene Kayak. He was the main character.
I believe it was John.
John?
Jean.
Okay, John, like, not Gene. John.
Jean Kayak.
Yeah, and then just a few like people, because there's not really a whole lot of like actual people that are in this movie, because a lot of them are just like guys in like fursuits.
Yeah, because this movie is well, first off, it's an indie film.
Yeah,
not huge. Right?
No, it's not.
Very low budget.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, and it's kind of like what we talked about being an old Looney Tunes cartoon, is that they would just reuse the same background a lot of the time, or like a lot of like the same animation for the characters and stuff. But just doing the bare minimum of people that are in this movie. So we got, like I mentioned earlier, Ryland Brixton Cole Tews, and then we got Olivia Graves, who was playing as the merchant's daughter, Doug Manchesky, who played as the merchant himself, got Wes Tank, who is the master fur trapper, and Louis Rico, who is the Indian fur trapper. So those are basically the only people, live action people that are in this.
Because like the genius of this film, in its
and they had a lot of people play as the mascots too.
Because because the animals,
it's crazy.
You think of the beavers, like, are they actually beavers?
No, and they're not CGI either. They're just like people in costumes. That's it.
They're not CGI. They're not animated. The beavers are just guys in beaver costumes.
The only time that it's not a person in a costume is the puppets, which is the toad and the
bird,
the woodpecker.
the bird. But like every animal that you see in this film is just a bunch of guys in big ass costumes.
Yeah,
and they're basically like Halloween costumes essentially.
yeah. Like you go to Spirit Halloween and then it's just there. It's just like, oh, cool. Like I'll just go as a beaver this year.
And it's crazy because it doesn't hit you that that's the case until you see the very first rabbit come up on screen.
Yeah,
and you're just like, oh, that's what we're going with this film.
yeah. Because like I thought it was hilarious that I was all like, how is this gonna work with hundreds of beavers? Because I thought that it was initially like this one bad horror movie that I heard about last year, and I was all like, oh, okay, like that ought to be interesting.
What's the movie? Is it
I don't remember, but it was like something about beavers.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember it being on like another podcast that I follow, and like they were talking about it, and it's free on Tubi. So I'm like, oh, okay. I thought it was that movie, and then I looked at the information about it at first, and I was just like, okay, so this isn't the movie I thought.
No.
So
See, I thought you were talking about like Birdpocalypse.
no,
Have you heard of
no.
Birdpocalypse?
I have, yes.
We should talk about that film at one point. That would be ridiculous. But no, you really think that like a movie called Hundreds of Beavers and it's an indie film, it wouldn't be that good? And most times you find movies free on YouTube, they're usually like bottom of the barrel, like sort of nothing films. Usually they're cheap.
They're not critically acclaimed films.
Sometimes they're cheap knockoffs of already existing films.
Yeah.
That YouTube just sort of puts up there for people to watch. It's like, these movies aren't going to make us any money, so we might as well just put them out there for free. But like, it's very rare that in this case where you find something that you don't have to pay for. Yeah. That you get to watch for free. Mm-hmm. Well, with ads, of course.
Yeah.
Like
with ads if you don't have premium.
You don't have premium or ad blocker. Yeah. You know. So, but this whole film surprised me is what I'm trying to say. Right. When I first watched it, and I hope that it surprised you as well when you first
did.
Saw it.
Like initial like thing about the movie is like I thought it was very funny throughout.
Yeah.
Right? So like surprisingly it was really funny, and I was just like, oh my god, like this is actually hilarious. And then like it's definitely, to sum up basically what the movie is in its entirety, is a live action really long Looney Tunes episode.
It's the comedy in this film is all just a series of physical gags, right?
Yeah, and like I thought it was even more hilarious because like we don't really get introduced to the title up until like maybe half an hour, if not 45 minutes.
No, it's over an hour in.
Yeah,
that the title card
like,
for the movie shows up.
Beavers.
Yeah, because the reason that it's called Hundreds of Beavers is that the main character, basically has to give hundreds of beaver hides to the merchant in order to marry his daughter.
Yeah, because he has a crush on the merchant's daughter once he actually like meets them. Actually,
I think it's the other way around initially. It's that the merchant's daughter likes him, and then he falls in love.
No, I think it was like at the same time.
Maybe a mutual thing. But
because
because
he first gets there, and then the fur catcher comes in too.
Yeah.
And so he initially wants the fur catcher to marry his daughter. And he just goes like, no. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, I love catching fur. I don't really... really wouldn't be tied down. So
the best part is that...
I like catching beavers, not catching one beaver specific. So
the best part about it is originally he holds out... Because, again, a lot of the comedy comes from the fact that they can't speak.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of physical, like you have to look at what's happening. You really have to pay attention in this film.
Oh yeah.
Because because they don't say anything, you have to miss stuff.
Oh yeah.
He holds out the ring that the merchant does to the master trapper.
And then he initially thinks that he's like going to marry him.
He
goes like, wait,
no,
what?
Thanks.
And then he goes like, no, not me.
Not me, my daughter.
So.
And again, all of that could be said with dialogue, but it's funnier that they're able to communicate that without saying anything.
Yeah.
Because I feel like physical actions are a lot funnier when they're trying to convey something than simply just saying it. Because I don't think that this movie would have been as funny if there was dialogue throughout.
Oh, 100%.
It
because
definitely made it more funny with the fact that there was no dialogue.
Yeah, because like the whole thing about like dialogue in comedy is like you have to basically riff off of each other from the script.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of it could be just like on the spot type of comedy and stuff like that, to where it's like it's written in the script as this, but then you end up twisting
improv.
it. Yeah. And
improv.
so you twist it to where it's all like, no, I think it would sound funnier like this.
Yeah.
And then like basically you're trying to punch up the joke by your own way.
Yeah.
And this definitely would have been that. But given the fact that like maybe 85%, 90% of the movie he's just by himself anyway with just a bunch of animals regardless. Yes. So the only time he interacts with people is like the trappers, so like the Indian and the master fur trappers, and the merchant and the daughter.
Yeah.
Those are the only people he interacts with.
And
Other
so
than that,
it wouldn't
like,
have
there's
made
not.
much sense to have dialogue in that case anyway, because he would just be talking to animals or talking to himself,
right?
Which would have been infinitely more corny.
Mm-hmm.
Like the comedy in this film, you think that like, okay, when's it going to start to get corny? When is it going to start to like, when is a joke not really going to land?
Yeah,
and like it never really happens. It usually it keeps up with how with the bits, with the gags throughout.
Yeah.
And they just keep coming up with new and interesting ways to tell a joke without saying anything.
Right. And like for those of you that are watching / listening, like the thing is that we're talking about like merchants and fur trappers and everything like that, when initially when I mentioned this was like, oh, like he was an Applejack salesman. So
yeah.
like, yes. When you first watch the movie and it's introduced, it's a musical number of explaining John and how he is an Applejack salesman, and people would come all across like lands and sea and come here just to drink and have a good time.
This is 18th century America, basically.
Yeah. Well, it's 19th century.
Is it 19th century?
Yeah.
I thought it was 18th century. Okay.
No, it's like, I think it's like 1900s.
Yeah, so no, because if the 19th century, that means it's the 1800s.
Well,
20th
it would be the
1800s.
1800s. Yeah, you're right.
So,
but yeah,
I
so like
that.
people would come far and wide to like have his, I would probably assume, world-renowned cider.
Yeah, it's alcoholic cider.
Yeah, and so like in the midst of the celebration, he ends up like on a barrel, which these beavers end up taking out his
well, first he
columns.
gets absolutely hammered.
Yeah, and that's why he's on the barrel in the first place, like this giant barrel.
He's
cider.
dancing around and he's swinging a mug around that's like, well, this music number is going on, which by the way is the only musical number in this film. Yeah, and the only time that like you hear like spoken like dialogue and words, even if it is singing.
Yeah, because then this is when the trouble of the beavers come in, is when they start eating away at like the bottom
of
like
these two
stands.
giant casks basically of alcohol.
And then so he gets on top, and then one of them gives way, and now he's rolling down the hill and then runs into his whole
his setup, his shack,
his distillery basically, and then it explodes, and now it's winter.
It explodes now it's winter, and he had a bunch of
the whole time it's winter. After this point, it's winter. So, but
it's so funny because
I just think it's hilarious because like, at one point he's like doing something with a log. I can't remember. Like I think he's shaking off like a log up against a tree, because like he's just smacking it up against a tree, and then he squishes it, and then all the water comes out, and then he bashes it against the tree again.
Because he's trying to start a fire. So like
that's what it was.
Like he was trying to start a fire because it's cold. Because he like
of course it's winter, and he doesn't have like any winter gear.
Because all of a sudden it just becomes winter.
Yeah.
And it stays winter throughout the entire course of the film.
I don't know if he like wound up in a coma after that, and then it becomes winter.
No, like he gets buried underneath a bunch of snow, then he pops up. Right, and he's like clearly has a bunch of like icicles, like in the beginning opening scene, he has a clean face, and then all of a sudden he has like
Has a
a
beard.
growth. Like he kind of has your kind of beard, honestly.
Well,
maybe
for
a little
his
bit,
beard, it's like a little longer and it's more shaggy.
Yeah, a little thicker out. So,
But yeah, and then like he's trying to start the fire, and like that's when he starts like messing with the log, and he finally gets the fire started, and then the wind blows, and it's blowing in different directions.
so he has to switch back and forth between the
and
like.
it's a Looney Tunes gag
Yeah,
because it's like the wind just changes directions every time that he moves.
this movie clearly takes inspiration from old, even like older like Disney cartoons, like like those very early ones from the 1930s and stuff like that. So like
yeah, like very early like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy,
even
stuff.
silent like vaudeville films. It takes inspiration from that as well. But like it's things like that, like again the log, he like hits it against a tree and then squeezes it out like a sponge or like a
or like a towel,
and then it's a solid log again.
Right.
And so the beginning part of this film is all just him trying to like get food and stuff like that because
like
he's homeless now.
Yeah, he's homeless. He's hungry and he's tired, and it's winter, so he's also cold on top of all that. But every single time that he would see like an animal, it's a different form.
It's a different
of food.
form of food, like he
a
sees
pizza.
He sees
or,
like the like goose flying overhead is like pretzels, and like at one point he looks down to a lake and sees a bunch of fish, and they're all like things of ice cream. It's like explaining every single visual gag in this film would take hours.
Oh
right?
yeah.
So like as much as I would like to break them all down, like it would take way too long.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because like this is an almost 2-hour long movie, so
because the plot is very simple, but it's strung along by again these literally
visual gags and stuff,
like dozens, like 50 or so different types of visual gags.
Yeah, because I feel like it's broken up into like maybe 3 different pieces to this movie.
Yes,
because the first part is him trying to like capture the animals so that way he can eat.
He can eat food.
And like it's mostly the bunnies, right? The rabbits and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's trying to kill essentially these rabbits, but he can't because of course it's a Looney Tunes Acme cartoon.
Yeah.
And then the second part of it is him like learning on how to be a great trapper.
Yeah.
And then the third part is actually him trying to master his trapping skills
so that he can
way he can get the hundreds of beavers, so that way he can marry the merchant's daughter.
Marry the merchant's daughter.
Because that's basically summing up what the movie is about into these.
Yeah, it's very distinctive into 3 different parts.
But you could argue that it's broken up into 4 parts because then at the end of it, he winds up in like the Beaver Dam.
Yeah.
So, which is hilarious in and of itself. But besides that, it's like just the visual gags. Like I had one written down where it's like he's trying to get these eggs, but there's the icicle bit. So like he would he's not a very good thrower. Like every single time he tries to throw something, it falls 2 feet ahead of him, and it's like he would go up so he's trying to throw a snowball at the nest of eggs.
The nest of eggs that's up in the tree because he's hungry, right?
Yeah,
so.
and then I love the bit that when he sees it and it's from the tree's point of view and it's looking down at him, he can visualize that they are just like cooked eggs.
Yeah, they're like sunny side up eggs.
Every other like animal is like a different piece of food, so like a pretzel, a chicken leg, or ice cream. But for the eggs, they're just eggs, and I'm all like, okay, that's actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
But like he tries to throw stuff at it, and then like he manages to knock one out of the nest, but then it rolls back in.
Yeah.
And then he tries to do it again, and then an icicle falls, and it almost kills him. And
then he does it again, and then another icicle falls.
Another icicle falls, and then now at this point it's trying to follow him because he starts spinning around in a circle, and then it's also spinning around in a circle, but then it misses him again, and he goes up the tree, and then he looks at them, he whistles, then the woodpecker comes in, pecks at his face, and he falls in like it looks like sea urchins that he falls into a bush.
It's like burrs, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's like a burr patch, basically.
Yeah. Because, like, to me, I've always, like, since I was a kid, called them stickers. Because, like,
stickers. It's a sticker brush, basically.
Yeah. And then he like climbs up the tree again, and then he's leaving a trail of like the stickers. And then he gets up again, looks at the eggs, whistles again, and then the woodpecker comes again, pecks at him. He falls down in the bush again, and then he climbs it up a third time, and then this time he whistles, but then he stops himself because then he remembers like, oh yeah, I don't want to get pecked again.
It's such a great scene. It
is. It's such like funny gags like that I'm like, okay, like it's very reminiscent of Looney Tunes for sure.
One of my favorite bits was at the very.
Here's another thing I just remembered. It's like old Popeye. You know?
Yeah, of course.
It's like old Popeye, but without the dialogue.
Yeah.
So.
Like one of my favorite bits is at the very beginning where he's trying to get the rabbits, right?
Yeah.
So he makes a snowman of like a lady rabbit.
Oh yeah, because originally he's trying to like capture like the rabbits,
to get food.
And then two of them are walking by. They notice it, and then they're both holding hands, and then because like they're both walking side by side, so you just see them like this.
It's more funny than that because he builds two of them, and he has like them holding up sticks in there. They have bras for some reason.
Yeah.
So it's like they're topless. And then the rabbits see them, and then they turn aside, and you can see they're both holding hands.
and so it's basically signified that they're gay.
And then so he comes by on the tree, he's like, good for them.
Yeah, he goes like, okay, I got it. And then what does he do? He makes
a giant carrot, basically.
Yeah, that's what it is. And then like one of them stops and like looks at it, and then the other one goes like, come on, like let's go. And then so
he pushes him away.
No, I think I'm gonna go for the carrot.
Yeah,
and then he goes up the hill to get the carrot, and then he tries to push it down, and then it doesn't fall on him, but then instead it falls, and then it just like tumbles in a half circle.
Yeah, because it's a carrot, because it's not perfectly round all across, so it's going.
Yeah,
it's, physics.
Right.
There's a lot of physical comedy in here. It's just like it's funny because it makes sense. Like a carrot would do that as it rolls down.
Right.
So. Yeah, just it's full of just these little bits that like it's so good because you're gonna miss some of them, and then you go back in later and you watch it again. Because I watched it a second time for this podcast, and there was some things that I missed originally because I wasn't paying attention, but it's just full of those things that like the. Again, a lot of the funny bits that come from this movie is just people falling over in the snow. Like you're like he's trying to chase someone, chase one of the rabbits, and then the rabbit falls, but he also falls.
Yeah,
there's just a lot of falling down, like Abbott and Costello types of like physical comedy.
I did love the fact that like when he tries to like capture, one of the rabbits, like, no. I can't remember if it was the raccoons or the beavers that he tries to. Yeah, it was the beavers. So when he starts trying to capture the beavers, they end up kicking the shit out of him. So
like, he goes. He like three of them are carrying two logs across a hill. Basically.
Yeah, and this is his first introduction of the beavers.
Yeah,
when he starts spotting them, because like it moved on to the rabbits, the fish, and now the beavers.
Yes.
So they're all carrying logs to their big dam.
And one of the bits is that he sees three people carrying these two logs, and he has a sled, and he rolls down the hill, just fucking crashes into like the one in the middle, like and
then the other two drop the logs, and they start kicking the shit out of him.
They beat the shit out of him.
Like that to me is hilarious. Is when like the beavers start kicking the shit out of him, and then he's just like, oh, okay, well I guess I need to figure something out. And then because I'm trying to think of like, obviously he goes to the merchant because he sees the smoke.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the merchant, and now he's got all these fish in his.
Yeah, because he caught a bunch of fish by like biting his hands.
Yeah, he would bite his fingers and then dip them into
the water, and he got a bunch of and then fish on his fingers.
Yeah, and then but yeah, he goes to the merchant. And then this is when we're first introduced to the fur trapper for the first time.
Because he comes around, he's got like two beavers already, hands them to the merchant, and he gets money. Right?
Yeah, because then he initially gets money, and then that's the whole bit of the merchant asking him to marry his daughter, and he goes like, no.
Yeah.
And now he's all like, okay, well, I've got all these fish. I want to get something. And then he gets a gold coin. And then the merchant's stand is like, okay, one coin gets you
A knife.
The second one is like you get 2 coins, you get rope,
and
then
the third
you get
one
one. I think it's like 1 beaver. You get an axe or something like that. Because I remember at one point he gets like the bat.
Yeah, like
So
like
I think it's like 2 beavers and 1 rabbit. You get the bat.
It's kind of like a video game where you're playing like Animal Crossing or something like that.
Animal Crossing, Zelda, or something.
Like Stardew Valley, where it's like you have to trade. It's bartering, you know.
Yeah, you trade something. You can trade in something that isn't really monetary
it's like,
value.
It's progression, like
yeah,
which is I think is great.
Yeah,
but he gives him the knife, and obviously
it's
the merchant.
It's a very small knife. It's like maybe like an inch tall. So
the merchant does not like our main character, by the way. He does not like John at all.
And every single time that we see the merchant, he always like spits. And he does it in the spit bucket, or the spittoon, and he always misses.
It always misses.
Like there's one point that he like where John and the merchant's daughter, they're both like hanging out and whatever, and he like spits it into his gun, and then he goes to shoot it into the spigot,
and he misses.
Yeah, or the spittoon. Sorry,
like another one where he spits, like he swishes around and he spits it, and it like splits into 2 at one point.
Yeah,
and there's 2 spittoons, and they both miss.
Right.
Like they just keep upping the bit. That's the great thing about this is like there's recurring bits in this that they just keep coming back to, and that's always funny. When you have a joke and then you don't use it for a while and then you use it again.
Yeah.
Later on.
Because comedy always works in 3s.
Yeah.
So, but I think for them, I think they pretty much like doubled it. So I think it works in 6s for theirs.
I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it's just like when you bring back a recurring thing, not necessarily how many times. Bless you.
I bit my lip.
But yeah, it's just. Because there's so much that goes on in the film that you tend to forget about certain things, and then when you're reminded of something, it's so funny. Like at one point, like when he starts killing the beavers, right?
Yeah.
All of us, like at some point, they start to show these 2 beavers, and they're dressed up like Sherlock Holmes and Watson.
Yeah, because at this point now they're just like following him through the rest of the movie up until like at the end when he gets up to the dam.
They're investigating him for
like killing the other
beavers. It's so good.
But yeah, because like the whole bit with him meeting the fur trapper for the first time was hilarious because like he starts actually like killing the rabbits, but then when he would kill a rabbit, there's these 3 raccoons that show up.
Yeah.
And they're up in the tree, and so I think he like kills one of the rabbits at like a far distance because at the point that he comes back to get the rabbit, it's already gone. It's eaten by one of the raccoons.
Yeah, and then he puts up sticks around.
Yeah, so that way that the raccoons don't get there. Oh yeah, because it's the fact that he realizes that the rabbits are making holes.
Yeah.
Because he keeps falling into these holes and he doesn't know why, and then he realizes, okay, it's the rabbits that are making these holes. So then he would clog up 2 of the holes that are the 3 by these giant rocks that he had over by where he had the fish at. And he realizes like, okay, I'm gonna set this trap at this one point. So then he would scream into one of the holes, and then it would throw them into the hole that they would shoot out at.
Because he realized that, like, he steps on a pine cone.
Yeah,
right?
And it makes him yell.
Makes him yell, and it scares the rabbits.
Yeah.
And every time that he tries to catch a rabbit, he has to step on another pine cone, because that's the only method that he knows to make the rabbits run.
Right.
And it's just...
And at this point, like, he doesn't have a shirt on because he set up this trap to basically trap their ankle and have them strung up.
He made a rope out of his shirt.
Yeah.
So now he has no shirt, and at one point he takes off his pants.
Yeah. So that way it's longer, rope. So that way it actually holds them up.
And then it's like the Bart Simpsons movie joke where they're trying as long as you can to like cover his dick. Yeah. You know. Until finally, like they actually do show it, but
they don't actually in this movie.
They don't.
But I think it's also the fact that like they did some sort of like special effect to where it's like he is still wearing pants, but it just looks like he's not.
Yes.
So, but he's trying to catch these rabbits, but every single time these raccoons show up and like they eat the rabbits.
Yeah.
And like the first time he gets trapped, like the rabbit gets trapped in his trap from his ankle, and like one of the raccoons jumps down from the tree and like eats it.
So
and then he goes over and he realizes that it's gone. And then he does it again, but this time he has these wooden sticks that are like all around the hole. And then one of the raccoons comes down, takes one of the sticks
out of the hole,
and then it's to implicate that like he stabs him, like he stabs the rabbit, and then kills him that way.
Yeah.
And then it's this point that he also cuts up his pants, and now he has it to where he like has
he makes a snare that makes him strung up.
Yeah, and then this time it's the raccoon that gets like strung up, and not the rabbit.
And then he's like, wow.
He's like, all right, he goes like, okay,
I gotta kill the raccoon. So he takes. By the way,
he takes out the knife,
the small ass little pocket knife.
I said it was like an inch tall.
Yeah, literally an inch tall, because the merchant is like, no, fuck you. Even though you gave me fish, I'm gonna give you this shitty knife.
Right, because like he gives him the fish, he gets the coin, he turns the coin back in, because it's a whole gag that he can't like lift it up off the table. Yeah. The merchant easily lifts it up off the table and he hands it to him, and then he hands it back to him and he goes like, okay, I want the knife. And
I'm still laughing about some of these bits because they're so
they're
good.
Actually pretty good, but yeah, so he's all like, okay, I guess I gotta kill this raccoon. So he pulls out the knife. The raccoon just grabs the knife, and then he's like,
I'll cut you.
Yeah.
While hanging upside down, by the way.
Yeah, and so he miraculously kills the raccoon, takes it to the merchant.
With his bare hands.
And now he's all bloodied up and stuff. And then the merchant's daughter, like, cuts him apart. Like,
because she's a furrier.
Yeah. And so makes an outfit for him, and so now he has his raccoon outfit for the rest of the movie. So
and then it does like a whole title card thing.
Yeah,
where it's like it introduces
now
all the characters
John
in the
is
film.
no longer the Applejack cider guy. He's going to be the trapper.
And then his gal, the furrier, and then her paw, the merchant, and then also starring the master fur trapper. And then it does the thing that you expect at the beginning of a film, where it like breaks down like the characters and who plays them. Yeah, like the opening credits. Like halfway through the film. Yeah,
it starts playing.
It's so funny.
And then I think it's like maybe I think it was about an hour into it that they finally say that like, oh yeah, like hundreds of beavers.
No, because eventually like
because they were about to actually say it's hundreds of beavers, but then that gets cut off.
And so you're like, oh, it doesn't say the name. So, but that'll come on later in the film. Yeah. But like, and then at that point, I think after he gets the raccoon outfit, he falls into a tiger trap.
Yeah, he falls into the trap by the master fur trapper. Yeah. And then like his leg is broken. And he then like nurses him back to health by setting his leg, and now we're going months after this because or he makes a miraculous recovery at this point because each night because like now the fur trapper is just basically going around with all of his traps, just getting all these beaver hides.
The master fur trapper, by the way, looks like a dirty Santa Claus. Yeah, and he has a sled pulled by 5 dogs. Yeah, and if you were wondering, yes, the dogs are all
people in suits.
People in suits. It's so funny. So now, like, because the master trapper saved his life, John goes around
with him to actually like know how he can trap the
and he's got this complicated ass like
map.
It's called the trap line that like he can't read, but he goes around and he basically shows like, okay, here's what I do to like set up this thing without saying words, by the way. Right. And then we get to a bit where it's like every night they go to sleep.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like they camp out for the night, and then each night when they wake up, one of the dogs is missing. I think at this point in the beginning, it's like 2 of them are missing. Yeah, they get hauled off and killed by wolves.
Yeah,
at night.
But like every night, because he's got 5 dogs. The first night, it's dogs playing poker.
Yeah,
They set
it's
up a
dogs
poker
playing
table,
poker.
They got oversized playing cards.
Yeah.
It's so good. And then 2 of them get taken. And then, or maybe it was like 1 or 2 get taken. And then
Yeah,
every
I think
night...
it's 2 initially, and then I think as time goes on, it's like 1 at a time.
As there's less dogs, they change the card game. Like
Yeah.
at one point...
They're playing solitaire.
Like at one point it becomes,
No.
when there's 2 of them, it becomes they're playing war.
Yeah.
Where you slap down a card and then the higher
And then-
card takes it
yeah.
away. And then when there's 1 dog left...
And now he's just playing solitaire
Because
by himself.
the trapper carries around this giant bag behind him that's really big.
Of all the furs that he captured.
When there's just 1 dog left, he makes John get out with the dog to pull the sled.
He goes like, mush, boy, mush.
And yeah, the dog plays solitaire, which is, it's
like
so...
the last night, the dog plays solitaire, and then they wake up, and now he's dead. No, actually,
No,
it's
the
still
final
nightfall, and then he drinks the booze. Like
then-
I think it's moonshine because
because-
it's just the triple X on the barrel.
Yeah.
Or not the barrel, but the jug.
Yes.
And this whole time, when each night he's trying to take a swig out of it, and the master fur trapper tells him no.
He
don't
he
do
throws it onto the fire to that's,
make it bigger.
yeah.
And then now he finally actually drinks out of the jug, finally, and then he sees eyes. And then those eyes double, and
He's
then
like, oh,
so
okay.
on and so forth up until they're surrounded by wolves.
Yeah.
And then they hike up the tree. The dog gets killed, and then he also the master fur trapper gets killed, and then he hands him his
map.
Yeah, his map of
And then
traps.
the master fur trapper
He goes
dies.
but before he gets pulled down the tree, he goes like, mush boy, mush, and then he gets pulled down,
which might be a reference to like Gandalf's death.
Yeah, he goes
in the Lord
like,
of the Rings.
run,
fly you fools.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
Yeah, and then wakes up the next morning, and now he's just by himself. But now he has the master fur trapper's trap,
which you can't
path.
read.
Yeah, because it's too much. So then he starts making his own fur trap.
He makes his own map after. Well, first he tries to go find where they took him because he thinks he might still be alive. Finds a dead dog, and it's his brain is all exploded, but it's a bunch of playing cards. So he gathers the playing cards.
Yeah.
He goes to find where the wolves took, because the wolves took the bag.
Right.
Right.
And there's always footprints and stuff leading by the wolves, the giant sack and stuff like that. So that way he's like, well, this would be the wolves, this would be the dogs, this would be the rabbits. So because eventually he gets onto this path of rabbits to where it's all 2 of them get together. Now they're both going in the same direction.
Yeah.
So then he follows it, and then they have sex, and then it keeps going, and now they have 2 little ones, and then he keeps walking, and then there's a wedding and all this bunch of stuff, and there's this little the arch that they would have at weddings and stuff, and there's a bunch of different footprints that are
they had kids, and
aisles.
Then the husband goes off, and then
he ends up having sex with another rabbit, and then they walk off
they
onto
keep
another
walking
distance.
and then the mom dies, and
now it's just the 2 rabbits by themselves, and then he gets to the end of it, and it's just them scared and alone, and then he's all like,
"Oh,
okay," and then he kills them.
Then he eats the rabbits. It's
yeah. But yeah, he makes this giant trap circle of where these things are. He goes okay, well, here's this big huge synonymous thing, interests of
in the center is the grave he dug for the master trapper.
Yeah.
And then he goes he marks out the wolf den,
the wolf den,
where the rabbits are, the beaver dam,
the ice lake.
Yeah, the ice lake, the trappers, the merchant's house.
Yeah.
His campsite,
Right.
so just one big circle.
Yeah, it's just one big giant trap circle of where he knows where everything's at. So then it's basically just going off into a giant circle. It's where it's okay, I go here, I get this fur, so on and so forth, up until he gets to the merchant, and he goes okay, here's 5 beavers.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I thought all of that was actually really interesting.
Yeah.
To actually see him build up eventually.
That's probably how they did it back then. It's just
Yeah.
they just sort of okay, well here's a map of where things generally happen. Here's some big landmarks.
Yeah.
I'm just going to just follow this map every time I need to go like get something.
Right.
Because I mean, trapping was lucrative.
Oh yeah, because
extremely lucrative.
Because like it would be like, okay, well, this thing would trap the beaver.
Yeah.
And then like especially for him, it's like piles of shit.
Yeah.
And so it's all like, okay, and then he initially thinks that it's going to have the beaver come over and then he would get trapped, and no, it doesn't.
No.
So then he goes like, well, what do beavers like? And then he realizes that they like apples.
Yeah.
So then he like has cut out apples out of logs.
Yeah, out of wood.
And trees, and so now he just rubs the shit on the apples, like the fake wooden apples, and then that's how they get trapped and stuff.
Yeah.
And especially when he goes like, okay, I can use the ice lake to my advantage, to where like they can get called over to the beaver, or to get called over on the ice, and then that way that they're trapped because they can't move.
They're stuck on the icy, like they can't like push themselves or anything else. They're just frozen, stuck out there.
Yeah, and then like eventually it's like getting more elaborate with this traps and stuff, because now he's starting to build.
We're getting
upon his
to
stuff.
Minecraft mob grinder levels of efficiency.
Yeah,
because like eventually he goes back to the merchant, and he gives back some of his stuff, and he gives back the playing cards, and he trades them for I think bear traps.
I think it's bear traps. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the merchant sees the playing cards and he's like, "Huh."
He goes like, "What happened?
Does this belong to the dogs? And where's the master trapper?"
Yeah, and he goes like,
takes off his
"Unfortunately,
hat, he's like, yeah."
like, yeah."
And then the merchant realizes he's
He
crying.
gets sad.
And he's like, and then after that, a new item gets put up in the shop to be able to purchase, and it's a big question mark, and it's a ring.
Yeah.
Because
later we find out that it's the ring, because then he wants to marry.
No, we always know it's the ring. Eventually, when he paints it on there, we just don't know how much it costs.
Right. Oh yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, because the ring's up there, but we just don't know how much it is. But
because
then
eventually he buys everything in the shop, including a gun.
Yeah. and then at the end of it, he finally just goes like, "Okay, well, what about your daughter's hand?" And he goes like, "No, I forbid you to do this. Like, you're not going to do this." And then he goes like, he just mouths, "Read my lips." And then he just goes like, "You can marry my daughter, which,
by the way, all these are all like old silent film blurbs."
Yeah, because now it's just like the cards.
Yeah.
Of
read
text.
my lips, you drunk. If you think you can marry my daughter, you can't, unless you bring me hundreds of beavers.
And now we finally get the title card.
Title card, like an hour, like almost an hour and a half, like hour and 15 minutes into the film, we get the title card for the film.
Finally,
it's hilarious. It's so funny.
It's like this really long, overdrawn bit of going like, "Oh yeah, like here's what the title card is." Nope, actually, it's not. This is just the beginning part of the story, and then later on, it's all like, "Okay, here's all of these people that are in this movie," and it's all like. And then it gets cut off.
It teases us with like the reveal of the name of the movie, and then finally it shows us through this. By the way, the merchant's daughter, the furrier, throughout all of this, when he brings back the furs, like she makes them all into clothes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like she makes dinner at one point. At one point, she's skinning one of the raccoon when he first brings in the outfit, and it just has a human skeleton inside.
Yeah,
it's
I thought
so
that was
good.
hilarious.
And then on one of the bits, like. They're on a date. They're eating steak, and
because like he brings over one of the raccoons. She cuts it open, and then he just she takes out like all the organs and stuff like that. And so she pulls out 2 steaks and puts it on the plate.
Yeah, and she gives him the heart.
Yeah,
we're like, "Oh, I love you." And at one point, she like rolls up her leg and she shows a little bit of her ankle.
Yeah, and then he goes like, "What the hell?"
A good point. And then after that, at that point, she just takes off her clothes and now she's just on a fucking stripper pole.
Yeah, she's like on a stripper pole. Yeah, like that was hilarious.
Because it's like the bit of like, don't tell your father like this. This is really inappropriate.
Right, and then his daughter, and like his. Like the merchant's looking over and he goes like, "Oh yeah, hi, how's it going?" And then so he's like coming over, and then he turns the corner, and so she's like perfectly fine.
They're playing patty cake.
Yeah.
I'm still laughing about these bits. This movie is so It's so funny.
Yeah, because like he starts going like like doing the miming thing of patty cake.
So now we're at the point of the movie where it's like, okay, well, now I got to get hundreds of beavers specifically.
Yeah. So now he starts
gotta
making
hone my
more
craft.
elaborate traps, which I would have to congratulate him on actually doing a really good job by the end of the movie of like how he's doing this, because at one point he has like these fans blowing, and then it's just like blowing all the way over into like this pile of beavers.
Yeah, because the fan is like it's blowing him up in the air, and then he has a bat suspended in the middle of it. And
it just keeps bonking him on the head.
It kills him instantly.
Yeah,
like these beavers are not very resilient.
No,
by the way, they go down quite easily.
Yeah, and then at this point, like right before he's like making all these big, huge, elaborate traps now, is what you mentioned earlier, was like the Sherlock Holmes and Watson beavers, like going around doing detective work on trying to figure out who's killing all these beavers.
And like all the time you see the people, like he kills the beavers, a count goes up like ×1 dead beavers, and like eventually he brings back a bag full of dead beavers. Yeah. Right?
But then they end up actually trapping him.
Yeah, because
he goes to the merchant's house and to turn all of them in, and then
they're just like standing still, and it's just like, come on, give me the ring. I have the beavers. He walks into like he's sad because the girlfriend is talking. He walks into it. It's just a big wall. Yeah, and it falls on him. It's like, we got you.
Yeah, and then they take the bag of beavers with them to the dam. And so he goes like, oh, okay, I know where I need to go. So then he goes to the beaver dam,
infiltrates the beaver dam. And then he gets caught.
Yeah.
And they take him to Beaver Court.
Oh, yeah. They're like, like you're being charged for all of these beaver murders.
So they got a beaver jury, beaver judge, beaver prosecutor.
And he's got a beaver lawyer on top of that, who's also a shit lawyer too.
He's really bad.
Because when he's doing the cross-examination to defend John,
it's a snow woman.
Yeah, and then he's like telling them all a bunch of like the facts and everything, and then like everybody's asleep.
Like the beaver prosecutor is speaking gibberish, but he's clearly speaking as like a southern like prosecutor. Like he's giving off exhibits like they think he, like when he's killing the beavers, he's turning them into like Cronenberg monsters and like stuff like that. Like he's like you know, like doing like really cruel shit to the beavers when he's killing them.
Yeah.
And he's like,
it's like, no, he's just like killing them. That's all.
And the whole time the beaver, like the public defender, is like patting him on the shoulders, like it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, he's like crying in his hands,
whispering to him. It's just like, and then he gets up. He's like, but it's, again, he's just speaking in gibberish, but you know exactly what he's trying to say,
right? Because
there's good visuals.
Yeah, and then they find him guilty, and then they tie him to like a saw blade. And then I think there's like 6 of them that are there, or 5 of them, or something like that.
Like 5 or 6 of them there.
And I think I looked away when this happened, when he was actually like able to get out of the binds and stuff, because they just tied him up with rope.
So like he gets out because he realizes the things that are holding him down are like Chinese finger traps.
Oh, that's
so
what
like
it was.
if you push back against them, you actually get freed.
Yeah.
And at one point they like what appears to be the master fur trapper walks into the room. Is like, oh, he's come to save me.
Yeah, and then he's just like he shushes him, and then all of a sudden it cuts to him having like a
zipper down his face.
Yeah,
and it's like, you're wondering, was he beaver the whole time?
It's like, no,
he was just wearing a coat. So they planned to make him into skin him and make him into a coat.
I love that he puts it on the little peg, and then right next to the
is a picture of him.
Yeah,
of John, and it's like,
and then he starts freaking out.
John Kayak the coat, because they start like putting markers on his hands and where they're going to cut.
Yeah,
but he breaks out, and then he starts getting to a bar fight basically with these beavers. It's so good.
I love how they try to overpower him, but he's like stronger than they are.
Because they're beavers.
Yeah. Because he just beats the shit out of all of them, and then one of them comes in, and then he just like grabs him by the throat and punches him, and then it knocks off his head, so it just reveals a human skeleton head, and then he just like rips off his skin too, and now he's just holding a skeleton.
The beavers are like, they're putting their hands up, and they just like, but before that, like 2 beaver cops show up.
Yeah.
They're chasing around the table like Benny Hill style.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, yeah, but again, it just shows just like the funny bit of like these are just guys in beaver costumes.
Yeah. Like, I just think that whole bit of where he's like getting out of the saw trap and all this bunch of stuff, and then he just beats the shit out of all of them, and then he like goes walking down the stairs to like leave.
Yeah.
Because all this time he's like also trying to find his like giant bag of hundreds of beavers.
Yeah.
And he's like coming across like these scientists that they're doing like NASA projects.
Yeah.
Like of trying to launch a beaver out into space, I guess.
They're like it's just beaver NASA.
Yeah. And then so because at one point when he's like trying to find these trails, he comes across these weird like things that are in the snow.
Yeah.
And it's all like one of them is like a log, and then around it is like cut out snow in a circle. And he goes like, well, what the hell is this? And then find out that it's like them doing a test for the speed test.
Yeah.
So that way you don't pass out from the G's that you have to go through.
Yeah, the G-force test. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like this other one is like in a he's like hooked up to these rings, and like they're all spinning around in different
it's like an
directions.
anti-gravity test.
Yeah, and then it's like the thing that he came across earlier in the movie, and he doesn't realize what it is up until now. And he goes like,
trying to send things into space.
Yeah, and then like before he gets caught, he finds this giant thing of cider, and he wants to drink out of it, but he goes like, but I need to go and get the bag of beavers so I can get married. He's in that conflict
within himself.
He goes like, well, do I get
really
drunk
want to go back
or do
to
I get
drinking,
married?
or I want to go get the girl, you know?
Yeah, and he has his mouth on the spigot, and he goes like, no, I gotta go. And then like that huge like log ride that they are on too, that huge bit, and then that's when he gets caught and stuff.
Like sorry, I got jumped ahead of there. Like there's a whole bit there where they're going on like a waterway. It's like a cross between like a Donkey Kong level and like a Mario Party mini game.
Oh yeah.
At one point, it's again I like explaining the whole bits of all this movie would take again another probably couple hours.
Oh yeah, 100%. Trying to explain to visualize to people that are watching / listening, because then he finally actually like finds his bag of beaver hides and stuff.
Yeah, and. The beavers are going to take him to get buried, and they have the guy with the swinging.
Well, before that, like they start to actually launch the
rocket.
The rocket,
and I forget what happens
because one of them goes to test like the spigot.
Yeah.
Where
make sure that the fuel is ready.
Yeah, and then he realizes like, oh god, I really dodged a bullet there because I would have died then. Right. Like. Because it's fire that comes out for the throttle, and then it like crashes out, and then it just like spins around, so it doesn't really have aerodynamics.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Challenger a little bit because the launch was like they originally were going to pop the bottom of the keg to be able to get enough force to push it out.
Yeah,
but it gets popped in the wrong way, so it like comes out tilted.
Yeah,
and it like flies out of there, like makes a big ass hole in the.
And
all the beavers are just like staring at it, and then one guy like puts his hand on his face, and they all turn, and it's like,
and then it's John sitting there in the back behind them too.
And then the very next shot is him running out on the lake, and like hundreds of beavers are chasing him across the lake. It's oh my god, it's so good.
But yeah, then they catch him, and then they're what was it? Like they were about to like cut off his head, or no, they were going to throw him into like this hole.
Yeah, like they were gonna they were throwing the
that's what it was. Like they were holding
a funeral for them, and they're like a beaver's playing taps, on a bugle as they're like walking him, and he starts throwing the beavers into the holes, the ones that are alive. Then because the beavers are still trying to chase him.
Yeah.
Because then he pushes the beaver ball down the hill because he needs to get to the merchant. Because the merchant are still waiting for him to show up. It was like, the merchant's daughter is like, I wonder when he's going to show up with all those beavers, Yeah. And it's like, and then at one point, he's rolling across the forest towards the freaking the shack, and the beavers form up into a giant man.
Yeah, and it's just like this guy that's wearing like a suit, where he just has like beavers on.
Yeah,
them.
just be.
So, and I think that was hilarious. And then like the rocket comes towards him, and then he dodges out of the way.
Yeah.
But then he has this. No, it's the Indian.
It's either the rocket or the big beaver guy that like kills the Indian's horse. Which, by the way, is just two guys. It's two guys in a horse costume. Is the Indian's
I love
horse.
how it like the shot of the horse head being in there, and it's just the guy's face in it. Like that's hilarious. Because like we forgot to mention the Indian fur trapper, because like earlier in the movie when he's trying to like get the traps and stuff set up, he meets the Indian fur trapper, and then like he has an axe, but then it turns out that it's actually a smoking pipe.
A smoking pipe, yeah.
And then they like basically break bread together by like smoking out of the pipe together.
Well, first he sees that the Indian has snowshoes because he's trying to walk through the snow and he's cold.
And he holds up the knife.
And
as,
you think it's
like
he's threatening it, like.
And then he thinks, and he goes like, "Oh," so he takes it and he starts picking his teeth with it. So he
and then
thinks
he
it's
trades
a
him his
toothpick.
snowshoes, and then later on, he trades him something.
He trades him something for the axe.
Like I think it was the Lucky Rabbit's foot, maybe.
Maybe
for the axe.
I can't remember.
And then at one point he trades him a wolf teeth necklace.
Yeah.
That's what he trades him the axe for.
Oh yeah.
And then he gets a pipe at one point.
Yeah.
You know, so like,
yeah, because that was the other thing
so
too. It's like the first coin or the first. Yeah, I think it's the first coin is a pipe, or maybe it's 3 coins that's a pipe, or something like
first
that.
First coin is a knife. He trades the knife, and then like 3 coins are a pipe.
Yeah.
So he trades that with him.
Because 2 coins is like the rope and stuff. Yeah.
They basically are just like 2 smoking buddies at this point.
Yeah, because then they trade pipes. Because then the Indian takes his pipe and then he takes the axe.
Because he needs to be able to like sharpen sticks and stuff like that with a better thing. And so like the Indian fur trapper, his horse is dead, and then
and then he takes he shoots an arrow with a rope tied to it
to the rocket because it's still like going out of control.
Yeah, and then so he spins it around. He finally gets control of it. He spins it around and then he fires it back at the giant raccoon.
And then he like tears off his shirt like stuff. He's like, bleh. Yeah. Because I didn't know this. Like apparently the guy who plays the Indian fur trapper, he's a wrestler.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if he's a professional wrestler or not, but like
maybe not.
But like I know that he like on IMDb it says he was a wrestler.
Oh, okay. So that's cool.
So he and he throws it at the
giant beaver,
and he kills the beaver.
Yeah. And
then John gets back,
with his hundreds of beavers,
and it starts raining beavers.
Yeah.
And
because I don't remember what happened, but I think he either like undid the bow or something like that, and then just like they all just shoot out.
Because the ball has formed into a giant snowball.
That's what it was.
He jumps on it, and then it breaks apart, and then it's just raining dead beavers for the merchant. And
then the merchant's all like in awe and like basically in heaven because he's got all these fur.
He's got all this fur now.
And then he ends up like John finally marries the daughter. And then he's about to go in for a kiss, and then the merchant kisses him instead, and then John spits his spit out, and then he finally makes it into the
and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. So, but
again, we mostly hit on the big stuff, but there's these little tiny bits that are still in the film.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we'll get to that, but our consensus for this movie. But like I don't know. We can do that now. So.
Yeah.
That's the end of Hundreds of Beavers.
It's the end of the Hundreds of Beavers. We basically covered everything important, like
all the big stuff that.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil the whole thing. Just like we want to give you a gist of like just how funny this movie is.
Yeah, and again, it's free on YouTube, so you can go and watch it and stuff like that. So you don't need to pay money for it. So
I want to hear your consensus first. What do you think of this film, Devin?
Okay. Now is the time when we give our consensus on this being a rent, buy, or a skip, hence the reason why this is called RBS in the first place, where rent is like, okay, I'll occasionally watch it every so often. A buy is like, I love this movie so much, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to put it up on my shelf, and I'll go and watch it. And skip is just don't even waste your time. So for me, I was all like, I don't know. Like originally when I watched this, I was like, I don't know. It seems like it's a skip. But then I got through it. I was like, okay, this is actually pretty funny. So I don't know. It's borderline rent buy for me. So I would, if I wanted to put a pin in it, I would say that it's a rent.
I mean, it's all right. Like,
Okay.
For sure. Just because, like, you know, we pretty much talked about it throughout the episode, is that it's very reminiscent of old Looney Tunes, old Popeye cartoon.
Yeah.
Of where it's like the big huge thing for Looney Tunes is like Acme, so Acme Dynamite or like the Acme store and stuff. So like for his cider distillery, if you want to call it that, has Acme written on it too. So it's also to signify that it's also like an old cartoon.
It's just an homage to.
Yeah, and so like I mentioned earlier, was like it's a really long Looney Tunes cartoon, but it's live action. That's basically what it is. But just the visual gags throughout the whole thing, like just the fact that you've got guys that are in fur costumes, like animal costumes the whole time, and also the fact that they had like only 2 puppets for the frog and the woodpecker. And those were actually done pretty well too.
Yeah.
So like that stuff was actually pretty funny, but like a lot of the stuff that they used was actually really cool and really good, because like they didn't use a whole lot of like visual effects, right? So it's all practical stuff, and it's like stuff that they either made or they went and bought and stuff like that. Like a bunch of the costumes, I would imagine too.
Yeah.
So, but they're all basically the same costume. Like all of the beaver costumes are the same. All the rabbit costumes are the same. So it's like, but then we also didn't even touch on him trying to get into the wolf den. For him trying to get the bag in the first place. Yeah, because they stole the
bag. Like, it's there's so much to talk about, because like it's just a bunch, like I said, it's just a bunch of interconnected little gags and stuff like that.
Everything is connected in its own way, and like it's super funny of how it's executed. But yeah, definitely for me, I'd say that it's a rent for sure. So,
well, I would say it's a buy. Fuck yeah! If you could buy it,
right?
Because it's free.
Yeah, you can't really buy it. Well, I don't know. You could.
You could, like, if I mean, at some point it's gonna stop being free on YouTube. But for me, it's like I always enjoy media that has so many details in it that like you can go back and watch it as many several times, and you'll still find something again that you liked about it.
You're right. I definitely feel like that this could definitely be like a good time when you're stoned, because like I talked about like Super Troopers last weekend, and so it's all like, you know what? I think this would be a little bit better if like you were high. Yeah. So not that I'm condoning getting high and stuff like that, but you know, if you want to, you can. Not saying that
it's just this movie's just hilarious. It like, and it's not even in a like it's a genuine, like, this movie is genuinely funny.
Oh yeah.
Instead of being like corny or cheesy.
Right. It's not like, just like you go like ha, or you're just like
there's just so many good bits in it.
Yeah.
That you can sometimes you go back and watch again because it's like, oh, that was so funny, I want to see it again.
This definitely isn't a movie that you could just have on in the background.
And like, again, it was more effort put in than just like, oh, it just has a bunch of like green screened like actual live beavers, or like a puppet beaver, you know, right. Like they went out and they got a bunch of beaver costumes made for this film, which probably encompassed most of the budget of this film, if I had to guess.
I would say so.
But they could have done it in a more simpler way. They could have done it with like cheap animation as well, and they could have had dialogue. Yeah, but they decided not to do it, and they could have done it in color, but they didn't choose to do that. Every choice was deliberate in this film, and it's like,
because even on the poster, it's him with his raccoon outfit on, and that's in color, but then he's got hundreds of beavers chasing after him, which does happen in the movie towards the end. Isn't
the poster like a caricature artist?
It is.
Sort of like thing. So like, yeah, that was like, again, the way when you first hear about this movie is like, oh, hundreds of beavers. Like,
it's like, what the hell is that?
How good could it possibly be? Like, this seems like a movie that would just be like a skip because it sounds like boring or it's
you
feel like it's going to be cheap because it's a free movie on YouTube. But then you watch it's like, wow, this is really good.
Yeah, because like I mentioned at the first part of my consensus of this, of going like, well, I initially thought it was going to be a skip, but then as I actually watched it, I started liking it even more.
Yeah.
And then it actually surprised me. I was just like, okay, this isn't a skip, but I don't want to say that it's a buy either. But it was like borderline skip, borderline buy, because I actually really enjoyed the movie myself. So
I think it's a buy because it is first of all it's it's a buy for me because it's independent film, right? And it was made in 2024.
Yeah,
like this movie is recent, right? But it's kind of timeless in that sense. Like you could watch this 10 years from now and it still will be fine because it's none of the like it doesn't have any like outdated film techniques. It's just it's classic physical gag comedy.
Oh yeah,
right. And it's like you can really watch this any time of the year, you know, and you could watch this like again, like I said, 10 years from now, and it'll still be funny. Yeah. You could show this to anybody, and like most people will get why this is funny. It's not like a comedy that you have to explain to someone, or it's like has jokes that don't necessarily land. Yeah, most of these are pretty common. Like you can tell why someone would think it would be funny, right? Instead of like some movies that are supposed to be funny, sometimes don't land. It's like I don't get this at all. Oh yeah, this isn't funny to me. Right. Yeah. I don't want to say it's objectively funny, right? Because like. Some people will think it's stupid, you know.
Right.
Like,
some people don't like slapstick or like physical comedy,
and some people will get bored. Like where's the dialogue? It's like I'm missing this because I'm like I have to pay attention this whole time.
Right. I can't scroll on my phone. Like,
but so it's a movie that I think anyone can enjoy, really. Yeah. But yeah, it would probably be a lot more. I think it would be more funny if you were a bit under the influence.
Yeah, because, like, honestly, like, you can't really necessarily show this to kids. You could, but I feel like
there would be some jokes that, like, you, like...
Because, like, especially where it's, like, they're killing the animals, quote-unquote. Because, like, even when he initially walks up with the first raccoon, and so, like, she's, like, ripping off his head and stuff, so, like, you hear the bones crack and everything. So I feel like that
this
if you
movie
were
is
to
unrated,
show it... Yeah.
But I would rate it PG, I think.
Yeah, I feel like PG because
by modern standards it'd be a PG film.
Definitely not PG-13 because there's no cussing. I mean,
no.
Like there's one time that John says, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
And he gets the shit beat out of him. But other than that, it's like there's not really a whole lot of violence.
Yeah.
It's like mostly call it like cartoon violence. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Because, like, he doesn't really, like, kill them. He just, like, bonks them on the head and then they die. Yeah. Like, that's all that it is. But, other than that...
I think kids would love this movie, personally.
Yeah. Which I do have, actually, surprisingly, because this movie didn't have taglines, so I didn't have any taglines to talk about.
Yeah, because it's an indie film, so...
Yeah, so, like, it didn't have a wide release or anything like that, but there are some people that left some reviews. So, which they're not too long. We'll talk about one of them.
I've already skimming some of the headlines for some of these reviews.
So, whenever we give our consensus, we like to talk about suggestive people. So I will go on to IMDb, and depending on where we land on the film, we will talk about a 1, a 10, or sometimes both star review on IMDb, where we will actually open up the discussion about that. So one of them that I have is actually just a 1 star. I figured that way it's all like, okay, we both really enjoyed the movie anyway, so I figured that we would just talk about a low score.
Yeah.
So person says back from 2024, so last year, saying that this is not a kids movie. So
well, it's unrated, first of all.
Right.
So no one said it was a kids movie.
Right. They said, I thought this was a kids movie at first. I had no intention of watching it. A friend of mine said it had good ratings, and Reddit also had people praising the movie. I don't know how. I made it 12 minutes, and I could not take it anymore. I still didn't know what was going on. I looked like It looked like a movie made by stoners for stoners. It definitely was not a movie for kids. There are some scenes that could be considered violent. If you want to veg out in front of a screen for a while and turn your brain off, then this is definitely for you. If you want at least a little bit of content, then go elsewhere.
Turn your brain off. You can't really do that in this film. That's the
No,
one movie
you have
I'd
to
say
literally pay attention.
That's the one movie I'd say you really can't do that for. And like, that's funny that they think that this is a stoner film.
Yeah.
Because like it.
You got 12 minutes into it. How do you know that it could be a stoner film? Like
12 minutes, you haven't really even seen much of it.
Right.
Like,
it's like what? The first
the first
5?
beaver probably doesn't even come in until like 15, 20 minutes in.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
I don't that's an interesting take.
Yeah. I don't understand why or where these people come up with their rating scores. It's all like, oh, this wasn't funny enough, and people told me it was funny, so I'm gonna give it a 2.
I almost give it like I almost disregard the ratings for comedy movies at this point because like critics are going to hate comedy movies.
Yeah. Well, this I think was actually pretty good critically.
Yeah, it was.
So.
Yeah, because I mean, it's won a couple of awards. I mean ratings on like Rotten Tomatoes and like IMDb for most comedy movies where it's like people are going to give differing opinions. It's always going to be mixed because most comedy films are very subjective.
Yeah.
So, but like that was interesting. So
right. But yeah. Anything else about Hundreds of Beavers?
Just that, like I said, it's free on YouTube right now with ads. So just like slap an ad blocker onto your on your computer if you're watching it, or if you're watching it on like a smart TV, then I guess you're just gonna have to suffer. But it's worth it. It's free. I mean, free is better than nothing, especially for a movie of this quality, of this hidden gem. Shout out to my friend.
I would say that it is kind of a hidden gem. So,
shout out to my friend Dan for recommending this film to me in the first place. I want to like get this film out there.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's won a couple awards from film. Like some film awards. Don't ask me what they are off the top of my head. I know that I saw that it's won a couple awards back when it was in a film festival in 2022 when I released officially.
Yeah.
Like it was released officially on streaming services and stuff like that in 2024. But streaming services, I said YouTube. But this movie has very good value for something that you would not. And it's unassuming.
Oh yeah.
It's unassuming, this film. So please share this film with
other people,
more people, so we can get the hype going for Hundreds of Beavers. You know.
Oh yeah.
We can. It'll be a great like cult classic film.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a cult classic film for sure, because it's all like, hey, like invite friends over. It's all like, hey, like let's all watch a movie, and it's like, okay, well, what do you want to watch? And then people are going to suggest like other like critically acclaimed movies. It's like, you know what? I have a suggestion. Let's watch Hundreds of Beavers.
It's like
so
you know, like what, you haven't seen Hundreds of Beavers yet? Oh, we gotta watch.
It's like we gotta watch it now, dude. Like, what are you doing?
One of those it's man. I'm so glad.
I feel like it's one of those movies too.
Yeah, I'm so glad we got a chance to talk about this because it
definitely subverted my expectations.
It came up out of nowhere, and I was like, we have to talk about this.
Yeah,
because like put our plans on hold for whatever I was going to talk about, like the interview. Yeah. That can wait. That movie's been out for 10 years. Right. This is hot off the presses, essentially,
from last year.
Like pretty much. So
yeah. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
I just wanted to shout out this movie because it's good. It's a good movie.
Yeah, good movie, good bits. So that being said, thank you everybody so much for watching, listening to the episode. Be sure to leave a like and comment in the comment section below of what movie you guys want us to talk about, and be sure to share this with other people.
I want you to tell all your friends about me.
That like movies, like people talking about movies, you want to have a conversation about movies, stuff like that. And also be sure to check us out on Instagram and on TikTok, which I am going to actually get a thing to make clips for me, so that way it's easier, so that way I don't have to do it. But yes, thank you all so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you guys next week, which, speaking of, is going to be May, and we will talk about anime movies. So it's going to be anime month. So get ready for that. Be on the lookout for that stuff. We're going to talk about anime movies for all the month of May. So, again, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right, bye.